Good morning, everyone. Well, this is a regular Saturday feature. It's 9 o'clock here in Les Sables d'Olonne, and we'll go through the weather for now and look forward to up to a week and talk about latest things that are happening. And in about 4 hours, we'll do a question and answer session and talk about all the entrants and what's happening. But before I start this one, I want to just go through some of the features again of the tracker, because I'm still finding people aren't aware of all the different functions, and some people are complaining about things, saying, oh, how do I get rid of this, and so on. So here's the important bit right up the top here. That bar there is everything. So I can't actually zoom in on that, but it's very simple. There's a whole series of icons at the top here, and each one does something different. If I hit this one, put the cursor on it, it says toggle lat and long grid. So there, all of a sudden, you see you've got your latitude and longitude. This is your longitude going east from Greenwich. This is the Greenwich meridian that goes all the way right up to England. Okay, and that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. That's degrees going east of Greenwich. And these are your latitude lines. That's the equator there, 0, 0. And that's 10 degrees south of the equator, 20, 30, and you'll go down here to 40 and so on. So that's the grid. So we'll leave that there for the moment. You all know about windy TY. I'll bring that up again in a minute. But this one's interesting. This is a day-night. So if you look over here now, you can see this is where the transition is. This is the twilight zone, and that will actually move as it goes across. So that's, and it shows you graphically whether they're, in night, daytime, whether the sun's coming up or whatever. So that's the day-night. I'll leave that there for the moment. This is the toggle. It gives you course and points of interest. So you can see now, if I hit that, the first thing that happens is you get this course. Just to make it clearer, I'll take the grids off. Now this course, also you get the exclusion zones here. This is the orange box where the entrants aren't allowed to go. So if I go back to course and points of interest, just hit it again. Okay, that red line there, now going across the top of the exclusion zone, that's the end of the exclusion zone. It comes round into Hobart, you see it there, and you can actually follow that all the way around the world. There's a waypoint here, they have to leave to starboard. Then this is another exclusion zone for the Indian Ocean. In fact, I better take the night off, that will help, because it's daylight. Well, it shows you a bit more blue. In fact, I'll put the windy on, give you a bit of a better map, different colour. So yeah, you can see the course now coming down underneath Cape Horn, and it'll go right the way back up to Les Sables d'Olonne again. But for now, we're just back here. So that's the course. Now, I'll just hit the toggle points of interest off again. I'll get rid of windy TY for the moment, no overlay, because I just want to show you another really interesting one. If you come through to here, this is the toggle the tracks. You can see there's no tails, there's no snail tails on the boats. Now there's little ones. If I go up here, you can see the little tails, right? That's the track there. If I hit it again, you've now got the course all the way around, right all the way back to Les Sables d'Olonne, but it's very faint, and that's on purpose so that you can see the short tail, but there's a faint indication of where they were. If you hit it again, you've actually got the entire course that's very obvious, all right? Now, sometimes that'll be a pain in the neck and you want to get rid of it, so you can actually, but other times people will want to see exactly where they were going. So, so it's handy to know how that works. So one toggle there are no tails. If you want to see the snail tail, because they call our little boats snails, or I saw it referred to on one of the blogs yesterday as turtles. There's your snail trails, and if you hit it again, you've got the whole course, but a weak one or a very bold one. So we like to just have the short course for now, and you can keep it going from there. The other one is, if we just zoom in now on Loic, for instance. Loic arrived safely in Cape Town. He's going to hopefully leave on Tuesday of next week. But if you wanted to see what's going on, if they're getting close to the coast, you can choose the map type. And that's the little globe there. You just hit on the globe. You can have a road map, right? So you can have a road map on the land bits if you want to see that. You can have your satellite image, and that's what we usually have. Or you can come to what they call Navionics charts. It'll take a little bit to download this. This is a full navigation chart. So if you want to, even if you're not even worried about the course of the GGR yachts, you can actually zoom in to look at the navigational hazards. The further you zoom in, the more detail you're going to get. Okay, and this is exactly the same as you would see on any chart plotter. Okay, so you're basically getting a good look at Cape Town. You can see the navigational hazards and so on. You can zoom it right up, exactly the same. There's quite a lot of detail here. And you'll actually see where Loic is right now. He's here on the marina at the Royal Cape Yacht Club, and they've been incredible. You know, everyone in Cape Town is just fantastic, as you know, if you've seen the posts there. But it's quite interesting to see. You know, you could actually watch anyone that's closing in on a spot like this. We increase their polling rate. So the last 12 hours or so when Loic was coming into Cape Town, we increased the position reporting down to 1 every hour, and you can just plot their course on the way in, and the same when they're out. Once they're out at sea, we bring it back to once every 4 hours when they're in the ocean. So that's the actual Navionics charts. Okay, so back here again, toggle map type. We like leaving it on satellite image for now, and then we'll zoom down here so you can get back to all the boats, and we'll go back into a normal report. So now we want to go with windy. Okay, and that's looking pretty cool. So back here we'll have a look at Francesco. He's got good weather. He's heading over to Salvador in Brazil, and that'll be the end of his adventure with the GGR, but who knows what. He might come back in 22. He might decide to go cruising. We're not sure. I will be talking. I had a great phone conversation with Ari yesterday, the first big phone call we had, and got some interesting things to talk about in about 4 hours when I do the question and answer updates, and I'll tell you what he's up to and how he feels and what's going on down in Cape Town. So now back to the fleet. So we've got, I'll put the grids on because it gives you a bit of a point of reference on a couple of things. Captain Coconut, he's still making his way to the east. He's planning to consider he's planning to do a film drop here. We'll talk about that as well this afternoon, what he's doing, why he's doing it, and so on. But he's making good time. He's on the top of this little high pressure system here, so he's close reaching. We'll look at the forward weather after. So for now, he's not stuck in the hole, but he's not got favourable winds, but not bad winds. Igor's doing 3.4 knots, so obviously he's running out of breeze. He's slowed down a bit. Anything that's above the 40th parallel here, that's 40, is potentially hard to get to the east. So you try and get down south. If we zoom in on Istvan and Tapio, they're still side by side here, which is kind of fun. It's always nice when you're out there knowing someone's beside you. Tapio's doing 6 knots, so there's a bit more breeze than what this map is showing, and I'd say that it's actually moving forward quicker. We'll look at the forward weather in a minute. Tapio's doing 4.5. Istvan's doing 4.5. He's pretty happy. And Susie, well, bit of a mixed bag. She's doing 2.6 at the moment, so not too happy about that. There's a little hole there of wind, and maybe that's just gone through her. These positions now are 3 hours old. They were at 400 UTC, which is 6 o'clock French time. It's now 9 o'clock, so it's 3 hours old, sorry. So there will be another position in about an hour. Okay, so moving down here again. Then we got the middle fleet. This has been really interesting. It's not showing it now but during the night they had some headwinds. All yesterday it was not favourable winds, so everyone shot off in different directions. Tommy's the one that impressed me the most. He actually kept sailing through it all. He was going northeast, but he's got up there. He's made a bit of time. Uku slowed down, and he's only doing 2.8 knots, so there's plenty of breeze there. I'm assuming he's still relaxing a bit. It's not favourable wind direction. I've been asked the question for this afternoon about what would you do if you get 40 knot headwinds in the Southern Ocean, because do you hove to, do you lay a hull, or do you just run with it back the other way? So I'll answer all that this afternoon because it is interesting. It's not usual to have strong headwinds in the Southern Ocean, but it happens, especially around this area, because you'll see in a minute, it's very confused here. Lots of little pressure systems are very unstable. But the good news is there's no big storms. So Gregor's been, well, you can see he's heading north now. He'll tack over very soon. And in fact, I think you'll find when the new position comes on in real time, he's actually probably already tacked, because this direction is moving fast. and he's going north, so he'd be much better just tacking and going east. So I think he probably already has. Mark Slats, he hove to during the night, but just saw his messages that came in a minute ago, and he's now sailing again, quite happy, and that relates well to the picture here as well. So you can see he's back on track, but he's lost a bit of ground. When you consider what's happened in this last week, Mark slowed down for two reasons. One, the weather, and the other is possibly getting challenged without head sail furling. These guys have all caught up. One thing again, another one to remember, go up to the toggle bar on the top right, and it says toggle ruler. It's all, the icons are working. You just hit that once, come down here, put a toggle there. I'll just zoom this in a bit first to make it a bit bigger, because this is where the story is at the moment. So you can see there's one toggle there, and I'll put another toggle here by Abelesh. Now, as soon as I can click and drag these, so I can click and drag that and put one right there, and then it reads the distance and bearing between the two icons. And if I put one right next to Abelesh, Abelesh is only 330 miles behind Mark Slats. So you've got a Suhaili replica back here, you've got a Rustler 36 up here, and after 2 months on the course, you got 300 miles separating, and that's a bit over 2 days of sailing, 2.5 days sailing. So this is getting really fascinating. If I pull it back to Gregor, Gregor's here, and I'll just bring this down to the relevance of an east-west distance, because the course is that way now. The north, how far north or south of the run line you are, doesn't really matter. It's the distance east and west. So Gregor is now 190 miles behind Mark Slats. He lost a bit of ground. Gregor lost a bit of ground last night because he's been going north. Hasn't been doing anything on track. So his VMG or Vector Made Good is disastrous. But he will tack very shortly. 190 miles, that's a day and a half sailing. So again, you've got a Biscay 36 here with a crazy Irishman on board, and you've got Mark Slats there, big ox, great big, very fast boat, speeds everything, and he's only a day and a half behind. So things are very interesting. And now Tommy is in front of Uku. So just remember this toggle bar, you can move it around, you can move either one, you can bring it over here, put it onto Gregor versus Abelesh. Abelesh is only 136 miles behind Gregor. Now that's a day and a bit, right? And this is where the fun is, because when you come back to the old fellow, if I zoom out, Jean-Luc up here, he's in a world of his own, right? Completely alone. But here's the interesting point. If you put your cursor on, he's making 6.9 knots. He's not slowing up. It's still, he's not. Some people would think, he can afford to back off now, because if we bring these icons over, put one on Jean-Luc, and we bring the other one, number 2 boat, on Mark Slats, he's now 1,100 nautical miles in front of Mark Slats, the number 2 boat. Jean-Luc has one clear objective, and that's to keep the boat in good condition and get all the way back to Les Sables d'Olonne. It's a long way around the world. Anything can happen. But I have to say, you may very well be looking at the winner of the race here. Touch wood, touch wood, touch wood. The big issue in the Southern Ocean is that you find it very difficult to move from one weather pattern to the next weather pattern. And 1,000 miles difference here is very much, at least one or two weather patterns. You're not going to get anything that allows any of these boats to catch up to Jean-Luc unless Jean-Luc has a problem. He's going to, for these guys to have a chance of catching him, they're going to have a problem. Jean-Luc's going to have a problem to slow down for some reason. Okay, and it's not just boat for boat speed, it's just that physically you can't cross over this void between the two weather patterns. So Jean-Luc is in a commanding position in the race. He knows what he's doing, but I'm surprised at how fast he's going, because I would have thought, like many, that he can afford to back off a bit, maybe go for a bit cruising, but no way. I wouldn't be surprised if already Jean-Luc's thinking, I'm going to create a record here. Touch wood, if he sails through the into the river in Les Sables d'Olonne, and he knows that's going to stand for a long time, because he's one hell of a sailor. So it seems funny, you got to forget about Jean-Luc with the tactics and all the fun part of going back here, because he's just so far in front. It's insane. Anyway, let's look at forward weather now. I'll just scoop this back so we can get a bit of an overview. I'll take these off as well. And so now this is the real-time weather today. We'll bring it forward to tomorrow, 7 o'clock. Where are we here? Okay, so that's 24 hours ahead, near enough. all pretty stable. But look at this, woohoo, just what I was saying about never catching anyone. Jean-Luc is definitely going to slow down a little bit. There's a bit of a hole there coming. This is the centre of this high pressure system going around in a clockwise direction. And Mark Slats is happy. He's got a good northerly breeze. He'll be reaching along there. These guys, middle fleet, they're going to be doing okay. I'll zoom in a bit so you get a bit better perspective here. Yeah, they're going to be happy tomorrow. That's no problem. Susie's happy. She'll get underway again. Igor's going to slow down. He's got a hole, and I think Mark will be the same. He's gone incredibly high here. There is a couple of things that you use as a rule of thumb, and it's just standard. Doesn't matter what time of the year or anything. You're meant to approach Cape Town from the southwest, going up this way, because there will always be a high coming through here. It also allows you to run off if you get a strong westerly gale. You don't have a lee shore, and for some reason, Captain Coconut, he's up here high, and he's going to close the coast again from the northeast. Kind of strange, but he must have a plan, and he knows what he's doing. He's been at it for a while, but I probably wouldn't be there. Istvan and Tapio, they'll be happy. The good news for Tapio was, by the way, I just saw a message that all his alarms have stopped. You can imagine with his power supply problems, he's been low voltage for weeks and weeks, and all his alarms are going off. Low voltage, low voltage. He's finally caught up. He's moving. The hydro generator is working, and he's now got a voltage up over 12 volts on his battery, so his alarms have stopped. He'd be happy with that. Anyway, Susie back here, we'll talk about that with the video movement of the fleet in a minute. So that's one day ahead. If we go through to the next day, here we go. This is the second day. This is an interesting picture when you zoom out, because it just shows how unstable this is. Now, I'm not an expert on this, but there's certainly a lot more holes here and a lot more disturbance than I would have thought. So that's kind of interesting. The other interesting thing about this picture, if I put in the interesting point, well, first of all, I was going to put in the exclusion zone, but here's the 40th parallel. This is where we want the sailors to be, either on the 40th parallel or above the 40th parallel, because just below it, they'll get a time penalty. And this is the exact example of this separation of the wind and storms and everything and the sea state along this line. Because here you can see you've got big winds, there'll be big seas down here. And if you just remember that every time you look at the weather, you'll see that's often the case. It sort of gets a lot less at 40 degrees south latitude. And that's why we want to try and keep the boats there and give them slightly smaller seas and less wind strength. And this is the big high pressure system. This is a classic. This is for the Indian Ocean. And so you can see the next challenge is you don't want to go too high, because if you get too high, you do get the light winds. And sometimes you'll see the center of this high move south, move below the line. When that happens, you're going to get headwinds along the top here, of north of 40 degrees south, and the sailor wants to go down. The only way you can get around that is to come down at 44, 45 and try and get the other side of the high. But generally, this is the safest course, and that's why we've put that in, and that's why we've raised it a little bit, because we were a couple of weeks ahead of Suhaili's time. So let's just come back here to our fleet again, and we'll go through to the 11th. So here we are on the 11th again. Really interesting. A low pressure system here, another low forming up there, another low pressure center here. This is a high pressure here, believe it or not. This is a high pressure going around the lot. This Indian Ocean high pressure is forming up. So the next thing I'll say is, historically, the most dangerous, the most treacherous part of the course is this area just here. This is where you get the mix with the Indian Ocean high and all these other little ones coming through. The little ones, what they do is they change the wind direction very rapidly. These are small systems, and so the wind direction can change completely in 24, 48 hours. And with that sudden wind direction change, you get a completely confused sea state, and that's where they get really treacherous. And so that's why this area here is generally considered to be the worst part of the Indian Ocean, and in my opinion, the worst part of the entire course, all the way around the world for the boats. This is their real challenge, so it'll be watch this space, and let's hope they get through with a clean bill of health, and we don't get too many big issues here. Certainly the next few days looking good. If we come back and look at the Cape now, this is on the 12th, which is in 4 days' time. Mark Sinclair's going to be down around here sometime, about there, and also Loic's about to set off. There's some things happening here. And we go through to the 13th, you'll see it's formed up, and all of a sudden there's big southerly winds. This is a lee shore. Loic's going to be wanting to come south. It's not going to be easy. We'll have to wait and see, but maybe he might delay his departure if this forecast is correct, because it's going to get actually even stronger if we go through to the 14th. Oh no, it clears across, yeah, it comes across here, so that'll be okay. You can see how different this is now. There's another system, but that'll be history. So generally it's not too bad. If we go right through again to the 14th, 15th, looking at for the next week, it's not bad. There's no big issues. That's the 15th, so that's 6 days away. These guys here, all of them, 6 days time, they should be up here. They'll be falling in the hole. The middle fleet, by then they'll be up here. They'll be looking okay. So there's no, if this forecast is correct, there's no big issues here, but these tail enders, they'll be glad that they're not there. A week from now, they'll be up here, and this one will be coming in behind them. So, all things are looking pretty reasonable. If we go back to today again, we'll look at the currents, and we'll zoom in on this one again. So we've got now to get currents, so you all know, remember, you pop it down, hit the currents here. The interesting part, I suppose, is it's all looking pretty traditional. There's nothing here that's going to frighten anyone. Susie's got a bit of a head current there at the moment. I'll just zoom this in again at the minute. If she goes a bit north, she doesn't know any of this exists. She won't be able to pick this, won't know where it is. It's the luck of the draw. These guys coming back the same. Then there's this big snake that goes right along 40 for the next sort of 30 degrees or something. But again, they don't know it's there, and they're not planning to try and get a free ride. It'll just be the luck of the draw again. So, but it's quite strong, quite strong currents there. And it doesn't change for the week. They update these currents every few days, but not a lot to consider there. Not a lot to look at. You can look at the wave heights and so on. We'll hit this. That's the waves. This is real time for today. I'll make it smaller so we can see what's happening with the fleet. I tend to forget about Jean-Luc because he's right up the front there. We'll bring it forward now. That's the 8th. So this is tomorrow. It's pretty benign, really. There's no, I think they're okay for the next few days. That's the day after. The blue, we like to see blue, because if you look down here at the scale at the bottom, blue's only 3 meters, 2 to 3 meters. So that's perfectly normal for the Southern Ocean. The purples are going into 4s and 5s. So if we then come back here again, we pick this here, 10th, that's the 11th. So we got 3 days away. Again, pretty benign. These guys are going to get a little bit more. That's it. So you can play around with that anyway, and you can follow the waves. I think you'll all be getting to be quite expert at all this. Temperature's interesting, and again, the temperature highlights the 40 degree scenario and why we want the boats to sail it. But we'll come back to today's temperature. It's all getting a bit cool whenever there's a southerly. The green area, this darker green, is about 5 degrees C. The blues are down to 0 degrees. So the greens are about 5 and light greens is 10. So quite mild. This is what the guys in the front were saying. Geez, it's warm, but that's because there's a northerly wind. You can see it coming down. So as we progress through on that, you can follow what happens. And in fact, oops, I'm moving the wrong one now. I just want to pull this down. It's easy to find. There's the 40th parallel going down through there, and the temperature is pretty much a demarcation on that line. You can see when a southerly comes, but it's all pretty mild. They're running along the edge of the 5 degree, but anything that comes up from the south, they'll get 0 degrees, and it'll be snow and hail again and so on. So temperature's pretty cool. If you want to look at the pressure, you can do that. It'll tell you where those systems are very easily, and you can follow that through to today. You can overlay all of these, and this isn't wind, so don't worry, it's not wind and waves, it's just the barometric pressure reading, and you'll see how it gets very unstable after a few days. That's tomorrow. It's separated already. It does get very unstable. Oh, there's that huge high in the Indian Ocean. But here's the other bingo. These are the ones that are causing the instability, and that's where they converge and they get squashed up, and there's this whole interplay here, which, if you're unlucky, can create some horrific seas. But so far, it looks like we might be okay for the next week anyway. So that's really that. Now what I'll do, we'll just review the whole thing with, I'll get rid of this, with Susie's dilemma. She's out of it now, but everyone's talking about it because it was a real pain for her to sit there. And I'm just going to get rid of the wind now. I'll get rid of windy TY, go back to normal. I'll do a click and drag video replay here. So I can just click and drag this and it'll pull everyone back to wherever. I've got to go down one more size. I think we can all see it there. So here's here's where, you see that? No, I'm going to have to do a bit of a thing here. Get down here. Okay, we can see them all coming. This might be the best way to watch it. Okay, so a couple of interesting ones. We've got Istvan up there. Tommy is right back here. Remember this? Now the date on that, you can read the date. This is the 15th of August. Okay, so 3 weeks ago, Tommy's right at the back. Jean-Luc is here. He's not that far. He's 400 miles in the front. Philippe Peche was on his way there. He's not on at the moment, but anyway, Igor's back here. Tapio and Susie's right there besides Tommy. Right, so Susie's back here. She's already lost a bit of ground, but we knew about that. But you watch what happens as we drag it forward. Oh. Susie, again, down here right next to Gregor. Look at that. She's just above Gregor, okay? And this is on the 17th of August. Mark Slats is just here. He didn't win on the Westerly course. Uku's up the top. Igor, Tapio together, But these are the key ones. Just remember, Susie is in front of Tommy, Gregor, Mark, Jean-Luc's there. So that's on the 17th of August. It all starts to go pear-shaped very quickly. Here's Susie out on her blinder to the northeast. Abelish is back here with a problem. Gregor's still under her. And then if we go, that's 19th, 20th. Susie's tacked back this way, but she's going to end up going there. Abelish is in a hole. Mark Slats is there. Gregor's made great grounds, right? This is fascinating to click and drag this. You go boom. Again, Susie's still in a hole. Gregor's making ground. Abelish is back here. The only reason I'm stopping is because you can identify where the boats are each time. Okay, so but if you just click and do a slow drag, you can watch Susie. Just say if you want to watch Susie, just watch how she just falls way behind. We've now got to zip along here. Because of that one tactical move, and the others, Gregor's now on a roll. Abelish is coming out from the back here. It's just zipping through, look at that. Caught up with Gregor big time. This is when Gregor got caught in a hole, right? So there's Abelish, there's Gregor. You watch this. Gregor stops and they've all bunched up again. Bang, they've caught him. So, and poor old Susie's finally on a roll again there. This is for the 3rd of September, just about there. But yeah, it was a really interesting interplay between weather and the decisions you make. And it just finalised, we're just about finished here, but just the final thing I'd say, if I go through this, I just want to review again. This goes back to my planning in 1990 when I did the BOC. I didn't do much planning, but one of the most basic and fundamental ones was that when you come down through the South Atlantic here, you have to get under 40 degrees south. There it is there, right? You come down here. The big decision is when do you turn to go to the east, right? And when you've done that, you need to be down here below or on 40 as quick as you can to then come along and make your way even towards Cape Town. You get, as I say, you get across here and then you head up towards Cape Town. If I do a click and drag, remembering this is 40 degrees south here, you watch our fleet. They don't go anywhere near it. No one's interested in getting below 40, except maybe Jean-Luc, right? Everyone's way up here. And I reckon it would have been interesting to see what happened if someone had have done the traditional route and actually got down here under the 40 and go. It could have been completely different. They may have made big inroads. The other reason I'm saying that is because if you look at Suhaili's course, and right now, if we go to today, I'll just show you something here which is quite interesting. I'll just zoom in a bit. A couple of days ago, Istvan got in a bit of a storm. He was here, okay? And on the 6th, which is 2 days ago, right? 2 days ago, real time today, right now, Suhaili just crossed 40 degrees south, okay? And when she did, she was just here, right? So she was on that position there. So Suhaili coming down, Robin knew the traditional route, for the sailing ships. He came down, he met the 40 south here, okay, and got knocked down badly, damaged the boat and so on. But it was just interesting, just reminded me how the weather forecasting had sent people through the middle of the Atlantic, but no one really got down here, and those that stayed up high really paid the price. So if you're interested in entering 2022, just remember that. So I've been fascinated to see what's going on. And the final thing I'll say is, how cool is this? I'm really excited about a very simple aspect to the GGR right now, and that's the mix of boats. We've got Mark Slats, Rustler 36. We've got Gregor McGuckin, Biscay 36. We've got Abelish in a replica of Suhaili. We've got Uku in another 36. This is important for a lot of reasons, because it just shows very distinctly that you have more than just the boats. It's all about the skipper, the boats, the preparation, and their perspective on how they're going to win or complete the GGR. And they're all different. They're all different budgets. They're all different boats, and it's fantastic. So thanks for that, and we'll see you next week for a big wrap again.